All right, today we're going to go over the seller property questionnaire, what is known as the SBQ. And this is a form of an extension, if you will, of the TDS. This form needs to be filled out by the seller. The only part of this form that can be filled out by an agent is this top portion on page 1, and obviously the signature pages on page 4. Other than that, just like the TDS, the seller must be filling out and checking yes or no on certain questions. These are all yes or no questions. Anything that's answered yes must be explained at the bottom of the section. Okay, so very, very important. Again, this form, along with the TDS, along with the other disclosures, are due back and needs to be sent over to the buyer within 7 days of the executed contract. So make sure you're getting this form up front, whether it's at the listing appointment, you make an appointment, your pictures, or an open house, whenever it may be. Just make sure that number one, you get this in the seller's hand, and number two, explain to them the importance of this document, because it's very, very important. So let's get right into it. You will see a lot of the first portion of page 1 is a lot of legal disclaimers here. And again, you will just be filling out your portion here. But what does this form entail? Let's start from the beginning. This form is not a substitute for the Real Estate Transfer Disclosure Statement, TDS. It is used by the seller to provide additional information when a TDS is completed. If seller is exempt from completing a TDS, seller should complete an exempt seller disclosure, CAR Form ESD, or may use this form instead. On our last video, we talked about the 3 exemptions for not being able to fill out a TDS. Number 1, that's if the property is in a trust with a successor trustee. Number 2, if it's probate. Or number 3, if it's a bank-owned REO. In all other cases, sellers must be filling out this form. Next section here, note to seller. You are strongly advised to carefully review the disclosure information advisory CAR Form DIA before you complete this seller property questionnaire. All sellers of California real property are required to provide various disclosures either by contract or by statute or case law. Many disclosures must be made within certain time limits. Timely and thorough disclosures help to reduce disputes and facilitate a smooth sales transaction. So that's a legal disclaimer, just a little note to seller. As we get down here, this is where you're going to fill out the address, the APN number, the city and county the property is located in. Okay, that's all you fill out. The rest is going to be seller. So let's move down to number 1 here. Disclosure limitation. The following are representations made by the seller and are not representations of the agent, if any. This disclosure statement is not a warranty of any kind by the seller or the agents and is not a substitute for any inspections or warranties by the principals may wish to obtain. This disclosure is not intended to be part of the contract between buyer and seller. Unless otherwise specified in writing, broker and any real estate licensee or other person working with or through broker has not verified information provided by seller. A real estate broker is qualified to advise on real estate transactions. If seller or buyer desires legal advice, they should consult an attorney. So again, this is letting us know as agents that this is not any representations or warranties that we are giving, nor is it advice. This is completely on the seller. If they want anything in more detail, then they should contact an attorney. So still on page 1, let's move to number 2 here, note to seller purpose. So you'll see number 2 and 3 are pretty similar. It just gives a little bit of a disclaimer to seller and to buyer with some bullet points here. So note to seller purpose. To tell the buyer about known material or significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property and help to eliminate misunderstandings about the condition of the property. So notes to seller gives a couple bullet points here. You'll see answer based on actual knowledge and recollection at this time. Something that you do not consider material or significant may be perceived differently by a buyer. Like we talked about, a barking dog may be okay with someone, but someone else that might be a neighborhood nuisance. Okay. So think about what you would want to know if you were buying the property today. Read the questions carefully and take your time. If you do not understand how to answer a question or what to disclose or how to make a disclosure in response to a question, whether on this form or the TDS, you should consult a real estate attorney in California of your choosing. A broker cannot answer the question for you or advise you the legal sufficiency of any answers or disclosures that you are choosing, okay, that you provide. So number 3, kind of the same thing, but this is note now to buyer, not seller. Note to buyer, purpose: to give you more information about known material or significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property and help eliminate any misunderstandings about the condition of the property. Something that may be material or significant to you may not be perceived the same way to seller. So just a little disclaimer there. If something is important to you, be sure to put your concerns and questions in writing, car form BMI. Okay. Sellers can only disclose what they actually know. Seller may not know about material or significant items. Because remember, are they aware? Are they aware of these deficiencies? Sometimes they are not. Sellers' disclosures are not a substitute for your own investigations, personal judgments, or common sense. So it's getting everyone on the same page here. Seller awareness. For each statement below, answer the question, are you seller aware? By checking either yes or no. There is no time limitation unless otherwise specified. Explain any yes answers in the space provided or attach additional comments and check paragraph 19. Okay. Documents: reports, inspection, disclosures, warranties, maintenance, recommendations, estimates, studies, surveys, or other documents, whether prepared in the past or present, including any previous transactions pertaining to 1, the condition or repair of the property or any improvement on this property in the past, now, or proposed, or 2, easements, encroachments, or boundary disputes affecting the property, whether oral or in writing, and whether or not provided to the seller. Yes or no? If there's a yes question, we need to explain it here. So let's move to number 6. I'm going to move my screen down so you guys could see more of this document here. So number 6, still page 1 of the SBQ. SBQ is 4 pages. This is when it's going to get really yes or no question. 6A is a very popular one. Within the last 3 years, the death of an occupant of the property upon the property. So did someone die within 3 years? California law, yes or no? Okay. If it's yes, we want to know if it was a suicide, natural causes, things like that. So you'll want to answer exactly what it was. Remember, 3 years, though, is the statute of limitations on that. If someone died on the property 10 years ago, you don't have to put it on this form. Number 6B, an order from a government health or official identifying the property as being contaminated with methamphetamine. Well, guys, we are in Fresno, so that has came up in the past where, there's some people cooking with some chemicals that could be a huge health hazard to a potential buyer. So if you know that, please make sure that you are marking yes. But if you have no knowledge, make sure you mark no. Let's go to 6C, the release of any illegal controlled substance on or beneath the property, yes or no. Whether property is located in or adjacent to an industrial zone. You can pull this off your NHD, okay? So they'll be able to tell us that there. But this is for the seller. Are they aware of it? They may not know they're in an industrial zone until the NHD comes over, so they may mark no, okay? And they're not at fault for that because they weren't aware of that. We're going to go now to 6E, whether the property is affected by a nuisance created by an, quote, industrial use zone. Yes or no? Seller, are you aware? If they're backed up to, a big factory or plant or something like that, then that's pretty obvious. But, if they're in a normal neighborhood where you don't see any industrial areas in proximity, then they pretty much can mark no unless they know of something that we don't know of. So we're going to 6F, whether the property is located within 1 mile of a former federal state ordinance location. In general, an area once used for military training purposes that may contain potentially explosive munitions. Yes or no? It's pretty uncommon. Typically, we do see no on that. 6G, whether the property is a condominium or located in a planned unit development or other common interest subdivision. So obviously, if it's a PUD, if it's a condo, we check yes here. And we're going to state what actual association they're in. Anything from that 6 part on, 6A through K here, anything marked yes, you're going to explain it here. And once you type past these 3 lines, and if you need to explain more, a text overflow addendum will come into play, known as a TOA. So it will allow you to keep typing what you need to disclose. Or sometimes it's cleaner just to put C addendum, and you can put an addendum there. Now, page 2, still on 6H, insurance claims affecting the property within the past 5 years. They should know that. Did they claim any insurance? Because we would want to know that. Obviously, if they did claim something with insurance, it was a big enough damage or bill that would be past their deductible. So obviously that might be something that can be an issue. Matters affecting title on the property, yes or no? Do they know of anything? Do they have an ex-wife or ex-husband that's disgruntled and put a Liz pendants on the house? Are they fighting for a house? Things like that. Just make sure that you have them fill that out, yes or no. Material facts or defects affecting property not otherwise disclosed to buyer, yes or no. Plumbing fixtures on the property that are non-compliant plumbing fixtures as defined by Civil Code 1101.3. We talked about water conserving plumbing fixtures. So if this is a newer house, you have no issues with that. It's a water conserving plumbing fixture. And if they've done any updating since the house has been originally built, such as faucets, now do have screens in them. That's water conserving. So we'll just want to know if there's any upgrades to their plumbing. Okay. Let's move on to part 7, repairs and alterations. Any alterations, modifications, replacements, improvements, remodeling, or material repairs on the property, including those resulting from home warranty claims. I flip houses, so here's where I would check yes, and I would talk about some of the things that I did in the property. Or I would check yes, and under A, I would just put cosmetic improvements if that was the case. 7B, any alterations, modifications, replacements, improvements, remodeling, or material repairs to the property done for the purposes of energy or water efficiency improvements or renewable energy. Do we put in dual pane windows, low flow toilets, things like that? So yes or no. 7C, ongoing or recurring maintenance on the property. For an example, drain or sewage cleanout, tree or pest control services. 7C is checked yes more times than not because most people have landscaping services, so then you would obviously need to check yes here. Some people have pest control services. You would want to check yes here and explain that here at the bottom. 7D, any part of the property painted within the past 12 months, yes or no? Seller should know that. 7E, whether the property is built before 1978. That's pretty common and easy knowledge there, okay? If it was pre-78, they need to answer A and B if they checked yes here. If yes, were any renovations, sanding, cutting, demolition of lead-based paint surfaces started or completed? If you don't know that, just put no. If yes to A, were such renovations done in compliance with the Environmental Protection Agency lead-based paint renovation rule? You need to know this. You need to know if they actually got it tested for lead-based paint, because in the EPA rules, you actually have to send that to a specialist to determine if there's lead-based paint in the paint. If you do not know and you're not aware of it, speaking from a seller's standpoint, then they should mark no. So advise them on that. Hey, if you're not aware of it, just mark no. Okay. Systems and appliances. Defects in any of the following, including past defects that have been repaired: heating, air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, including the presence of polyethylene pipes, water, sewage, waste disposal or septic system, sump pumps, well, roof, gutters, chimney, fireplace foundations, crawl space, attic, soil, grading, drainage, retained walls, interior or exterior, windows, walls, ceilings, floors, or appliances. Do you know of any defects? If you do, you'll want to make sure you check yes and just mark it down here. Okay. Most of these things are going to be found in the home inspection report as well. So that's why you need to advise your seller to be as transparent as possible, because if there's something that's obvious, very obvious, and if disclose it and it comes up in the home inspection, seller look bad and it's going to make you as a listing hide something. Go through this and explain to them that they're going to get the help. But this additional purposes, when you can actually disclose things, what deficiencies you know. Now we're on 8B. The following: serving the property softener system, water fight or propane tank. This is very, if it is it a P who things like that. Let's see, an on or service in the property. So you'll mark here in disaster relief settlement, relief or assistance sought or federal, state, local, insurer or private partners of the due to damage to the property or from earthquake, fire, other disaster occurrence or defect, which was actually theirs. A pretty big one. They should know if they've had a flood. And if they need to mark yes here and explain the issue. Number 2, related and mold issues. This is another important one that the seller needs to be forthcoming on. 10A, water intrusion. Whether past or present into any part of the physical structure of the property, leaks from or in any appliance, pipe, slab, or roof, standing water, drainage, flooding, underground water, moisture, water-related soil, or slippage on or affecting the property. Yes or no? Water is big. Water can damage properties. 10B, any problems with infestation of mold, mildew, fungus, or spores or past or present on affecting the property? Yes or no? Now, if it's a black substance, everyone assumes that's not assume that. So unless you've been tested by a certified inspector that says it is mold, you do not have to disclaim it is mold. You could just put a black substance. Okay. Rivers, streams, floods, channels, underground springs, high water table, floods, or tides on or affecting the property or neighborhood. If it's in a flood zone, we need to be marking yes here. Your seller should be aware if it's in a flood zone, because the mortgage company would require flood insurance on the property, and they would run for that. So last one on page 2 at the bottom here: pets, animals, and pets. Past or present pets on the property, yes or no? Very common. If it's a dog, it's a cat, whatever it may be, you'll just have to explain it here, or explain it down here. 11B, past or present problems with livestock, wildlife, insects, or pests on the property, yes or no? Past or present odors, urine, feces, discoloration, stains, spots, or damage in the property due to any of the above, yes or no? Past or present treatment or eradication of pests or odors or repair damage due to any of the above. If so, explain. Again, if these lines aren't big enough, a TOA kicks in, or you could put C addendum. All right, now we're getting to page 3. It's just yes or no, this whole document, as it's pretty straightforward. So sellers should know about some of these things if it pertains to them. Boundaries, access, and property use by others. Surveys, easements, encroachments, or boundary disputes, yes or no? Has this ever been disputed or fought with a neighbor that you are maybe have a adjoining driveway, things like that? They will let you know. Use of the property, use or access to the property or any part of it by anyone other than you, with or without permission for any purpose, including but not limited to using or maintaining roads, driveways, or other forms of ingress or egress or other travel or drainage. Yes or no? Are we sharing anything? This can be common in some of the homes in the foothills, okay, or land in more rural areas. Oftentimes have shared driveways or easements, things like that. So just we'll be very aware of that. Landscaping, pool, and spa. Okay, disease or infestations affecting trees, plants, or vegetation on or near the property. Yes or no? Operational sprinklers on the property. This is very common, and most of the time it's checked yes. If yes, are they automatic or manually operated? Do they have a sprinkler timer on there? If yes, are there any areas of the trees, plants, or vegetation not covered by the sprinkler system? You should know that, yes or no. Let me keep referring. I'm talking to the seller's point of view, so the seller should know that. 13C, pool heater on the property. Not too many pools have heaters. Is it operational? Yes or no? Spa heater on the property. If it has a spa, typically does have a heater. Is it operational? Yes or no? Lastly, 13E, past or present defects, leaks, cracks, repairs, or other problems with the sprinklers, pool, spa, waterfall, pump, stream, drainage, or any water-related decor, including any ancillary equipment, including pumps, filters, heaters, and cleaning system, even if repaired. So yes or no, and we'll explain it there. Part 14 here, this only pertains for condos, so condominiums, and common interest developments and other subdivisions, if applicable. Okay, so if it's not in a condo, these will just be a straight no. Sometimes you even put NA over this writing here if it doesn't pertain. So you'll go ahead and go through these to see if it's in a condo, and you'll answer yes or no on these questions here. Okay, so we'll move to ownership liens and legal claims. Any person or entity on title other than seller signing this form, yes or no? B, leases, options, or claims affecting or relating to title or use of the property, yes or no? Past, present, pending, or threatening lawsuits, settlements, mediations, arbitrations, tax liens, mechanics liens, notice of defaults, bankruptcies, or other court filings of government hearings affecting or relating to the property, homeowner associations, or neighborhood. Okay, yes or no? Those are big ones. It's almost like some of these questions overlap because they want to make sure that we can convey title properly here. 15D, any private transfer fees triggered by a sale of the property in favor of private parties, charitable organization, interest groups, interest based on groups, or any other person or entity. Yes or no? This one's a one that comes up often. 15E, any PACE lien such as HERO or SCEIP or other lien on your property secured by loan to pay for any alteration, modification, replacement, improvement, remodel, or material repair of the property. Very popular ones are the PACE liens or the HERO liens because there are a lot of salesmen that went in and got these homeowners to sign up for these improvements, such as solar, and then it's billed through their property taxes. So you'll want to know that because those things need to be paid off before transferring title. We assume them over to the buyer. So keep that in mind. PACE liens and HERO liens, they do need to be paid off. When it comes down to like a Tesla solar or something like that, you can always transfer those over lease or a purchase there. So 15F, the cost of any alteration, modification, replacement, improvement, remodel, or material repair of the property being paid by an assessment on the property tax bill. Again, we just kind of ties in with the HERO and PACE lien here, so that will be yes or no there. And down to it here. Neighborhoods, neighbors and neighborhoods, neighborhood noise, nuisance, or any other problems from sources such as, but not limited to, the following: neighbors, traffic, parking congestion, airplanes, trains, light rail, subway, trucks, freeway, buses, schools, parks, refuse storage or landfill processing, agriculture operations, business, odor, recreational facilities, restaurants, entertainment complexes, facilities, parades, sporting events, fairs, neighborhood parties, litter, construction, air conditioning equipment, air compressor generators, pool equipment or appliances underground, gas pipelines, cell phone towers, high voltage transmitting lines, or wildlife? Yes or no? Okay. It's a lot for neighborhood stuff, so you may want to explain it here if there's any yes that you feel you would need to disclose. 16B, any past or present disputes or issues with a neighbor which can impact the use and enjoyment of the property. Are you and the neighbor beefing? Yes or no? So that's something that you would want to make sure that you put in there to your best judgment as well. Governmental will be the pretty much the last portion here of this document, 17 and 18, and as far as the checking, and then we'll get to the signature page. So here on the last page, page 4, mental, ongoing or contemplated eminent domain condemnation or annexation or change of zoning general plan that applies to or could affect the property. Is that yes or no? Have you been noticed that they're going to build a new train through your property, high speed rail? Then if you were aware of that, you would check yes, but it's very uncommon. So a lot of these should be no here. Existence or pendency of any rent control, occupancy restrictions, improvement restrictions, or retrofit requirements that apply or could affect title. Now, one here that could be an issue is occupancy restrictions. Sometimes that there are title liens on your title, on your deed that state, hey, this can only be an owner-occupied property. I had that with a property I owned in Las Vegas. You could not rent it out. It only could be owner-occupied property, and it was a quote-unquote a deed restriction, so there is no way around it. So the rest, let's go to 17C, existing or contemplating building or use of moratoria that apply to or could affect the property, yes or no? Current or proposed bonds, assessment, or fees that do not appear on the property tax bill that could affect the use of the property, yes or no? Proposed construction, reconfiguration, or closing or of nearby government facilities, amenities such as schools, park, roadways, or traffic signals. If you knew they were going to take away a park and start building apartments on that, and you had knowledge and you as a seller are aware of that, you definitely would want to disclose that. Existing or proposed government requirements affecting the property, any protected habitat for plants, trees, animals, or insects that could affect the property, whether the property is historically designed or falls within an existing or proposed historical district. Now, this one, Tower District. Tower District is considered a historic district, and anytime you have improvements or modifications of the property, you got to make sure that you do them within the code of what they're restricting in that area. 17I, any water surcharges or penalties being imposed by the public or private water supplier, agency, or utility, or restrictions or prohibitions on wells or on any groundwater supplies. So most of the time, these are going to be no, okay? And your seller is going to answer those, but it's hard for them to be aware of some of these things unless they were put on notice. And lastly, 17J, any differences between the name of the city in the postal mailing address and the city which has jurisdiction over the property. Okay, don't see that quite often, so most of the time that's no. So we're getting down to the end of this, guys. Number 18A, any occupant of the property smoking or vaping any substances on or in the property, whether past or present. If you know they're a heavy cigarette smoker and you see ashtrays out there and the walls and the carpet smell like smoke, you make sure that your seller is checking yes on this. And just a quick explanation, cigarette smoke. That's all you need to put. Any use of the property for any alterations, modifications, improvements, remodeling, or material change to the property due to cannabis cultivation or growth. This disclaimer came in pretty new ever since people have been coming in with these grow houses as cannabis is becoming more illegal in California. but that could affect, mold and water and things like that in the house. So we would want to know yes or no. Any past or present known material facts or other significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property not otherwise disclosed to buyer. Yes or no, and go ahead and explain. 19. If checked, additional comments. The attached addendum contains an explanation or additional comments in response to specific questions answered yes above. Refer to line and question numbers in explanation. So if this is checked, it then becomes part of the contract. It's either an addendum or a TOA, just to, when you are explaining the yes portions of it, what they need to know. Okay. And we're down to the bottom of this document here. Okay. So this is where the seller will sign and the buyer needs to sign. They both need to sign for it to be fully executed. Okay. So another very important document I wanted to go line by line with, just in case anyone had any questions, what these were. Again, you're going to walk your seller through it, but make sure that they have the pen in hand and they are checking these items. Okay. You don't want to be checking these for them and then them come back to you and say, hey, I told you yes, and you put no, and now we're in a lawsuit. So again, you don't want to touch that. You want to be either in front of them on the phone or in front of them in person, having them check these things, but make sure that when they do have a question about a certain yes or no question, you're there to answer them and help them, guide them through the form. But again, you cannot give legal advice. You can't tell them how to answer yes or no. You can only tell them examples of what it might be. So again, a very important document. I consider this the second most important document behind the TDS, but essentially this SBQ is an extension of the TDS, and this form needs to be filled out the same time the TDS gets filled out. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got a lot from it, and it will help your sellers move through a transaction more smoothly, help them disclose proper things they should be disclosing. And again, on the other side of it, once you receive these disclosures and you're representing a buyer, make sure you go through them with a fine-tooth comb. Anything checked yes, make sure that you know exactly what it is they are disclosing. All right, there's another video and on to the next.